Eleanor Williams. Untold Stories from the West. Birds chirping, horses neighing, grasshoppers buzzing, women chatting, and the distant murmur of the river. Those were the sounds that filled my senses. Daylight streamed through my closed eyelids, warming my face. I felt utterly drained, unable to muster the strength to open my eyes or to rise to my feet. What had transpired? If given the choice, I would have welcomed death's embrace in that moment, for the agony coursing through me was unbearable. "Is she awake yet?" inquired a woman's voice. "Maybe that poor soul is dead," remarked another voice. A woman seated beside me interjected, "Idiot, she's breathing, she's not dead." "Well, this trick hasn't failed yet, it always works." The footsteps drew nearer, and then I felt water touch my face. I opened my eyes, immediately succumbing to a fit of coughing as water seeped into my nostrils. Ouch. Each cough felt aching to being struck by 10 hammers, especially around my ribcage and shoulder. "Told ya," declared the one who had poured water on my head. "Lexa, you could have drowned her!" exclaimed the woman next to me, her voice filled with concern. "It's okay, I apologize for her." She gently stroked my hair. A woman named Lexa tossed the bucket aside dismissively. "Pfft, haven't heard anyone dying from a couple drops of water." I glanced around, taking in the sight of several tents, horses, and women. Where was I? How did I get here? Thoughts of my mother, grandfather, Charlotte, and even Elizabeth flooded my mind. Simultaneously, the memory of what transpired hit me like a wave. Limpany, a plan go awry. I had failed, and the fate of the other members of the gang remained uncertain. I needed to make my way back to the Great Plains from here. If anyone had survived, they would undoubtedly return there. "Where am I?" I finally mustered the question. "You're near Annesburg, at a place called Beaver Hollow," she replied. "What?" I exclaimed, sitting up abruptly despite the pain. How the hell did I get here?" I felt as though someone had plunged a knife into my side, and my shoulders seemed detached from my body. I trembled with every breath. "I don't know, but the Holy Ghost, I guess?" chuckled Lexa. "Take it easy, you could have broken some body parts," the woman said in a gentle voice. "I'm just thinking that if everything you said, Lizzie, happened in that town, then this woman shouldn't even be alive. She looks really bad," remarked Lexa. "Can you shut your mouth for even a second?" Lizzie demanded. "Go get some more water because you wasted it." "Sorry to interrupt your argument, but I'm asking again, how did I get here?" I reiterated. "At least her life is in my hands," remarked Lexa, snatching the bucket. "Can somebody goddammit tell me how the hell did I get here?" I demanded, but began coughing immediately after. A figure emerged from the largest tent. "You were brought here in a wagon 2 days ago. Lizzie is the one sitting next to you, and Irene is the one standing over there." She gestured towards the person by the campfire. "They phoned you and brought you here. I'm Remy, the leader of this gang. We're an all-female gang," she explained before taking a seat by the fire. 2 days ago? 2 days? I thought, incredulous. Irene brought me a piece of dried meat and water. "We thought you were dead, but Lizzie found a pulse, so we took you with us," she said shyly, placing the goods next to me. "We were just leaving Valentine until we heard a big explosion, so we decided to head towards it until we heard more explosion sounds, but the bridge leading there was broken, so we had to go another way," Lizzie continued. "What happened in Limpany?" Remy asked, pouring herself a cup of coffee. I took a sip from the cup. "Someone started throwing dynamite around, killing everyone in the process," I said, not wanting to divulge the full truth about what had occurred. "Did you see anyone else? Anyone who was alive?" I asked, my eyes pleading for any glimmer of hope. "All of the sudden? Throwing dynamite? That sounds absurd," remarked Lizzie. "But no, you were the only one alive. It hurt my soul to see all the dead children laying around. Whoever did that, I hope they're rotting in hell as we speak." "No one alive," I mumbled to myself. Lizzie looked at me and asked, "Was your family there?" "Yes. The last thing I heard was that they were yelling, "I'm dead." I paused for a moment to think about how heartbreaking Charlotte's voice sounded, and then I plucked out, "God, that sounds awful." "But I'm sure they were able to flee," Lizzie said reassuringly. Yeah, everyone has sad stories," Lexa interjected as she walked back from the river. "What are we gonna do with her?" She turned to Remy after placing the water bucket on the ground. A fifth woman rode into the camp, dismounting with graceful movements that stirred a longing within me. I hoped to ride again once my wounds healed. "Oh, she's awake," the woman announced. "Remy, Annesburg seemed peaceful. The sheriff and his men are not actively looking for us," she reported, making her way toward Lexa. Remy looked at the woman and said, "Good job, Faith. Thank you." Lexa reached out and scooped her into her arms, showering her with kisses. "What were we talking about? You not going near Annesburg anymore?" I looked at them, feeling a bit bewildered. Are they together? I thought. They seem so openly affectionate. Maybe the world is changing after all. I couldn't resist. I needed to know they were looking for us. And yeah, I was careful. Maybe I got a little too close, but I had this with me, she said with a grin, pulling out her binoculars. Lexa tickled the woman's stomach and laughed. "You're always so sly, my love." They continued to giggle together. Lizzie coughed, her expression etched with concern as she turned to me. "You really should see a doctor. We can't be certain about the severity of your wounds, but your shoulder looks busted, and there's been some bleeding from your leg. The nearest doctor is in Annesburg." I glanced toward at the end of the path where Faith had arrived on her horse and pushed myself to stand. Looks like I'll have to walk there. Irene hurried over to assist me, while Lizzie provided support from the other side. "Take it easy," she said. "I could get you closer to town. Faith mentioned they weren't actively searching for us. Can I go, Remy?" Irene inquired. "Sure," Remy replied, continuing to clean her weapons. She was a leader of few words, but the depth in her eyes spoke volumes, revealing an intelligent and resilient woman at the helm. Irene went to harness her horse, while Lizzie tucked more dried meat into my bag. "Here, it's not much, but it's all we can spare. By the way, what's your name? You know all of ours now." "I'm Elizabeth, but friends call me Lizzie. Those two lovebirds over there are Alexandria, but we call her Lexa, and her girlfriend is Faith. Remy is our leader, and that one over there is Irene." I took a slow step forward. "Eleanor, that's my name. Thank you so much. You saved my life, and I'll forever be indebted to you." Remy approached us, her gaze steady. "You know, you could stay over here with us and become one of us. We could use a new member. As you can see, our numbers are dwindling. You seem driven by the desire for revenge against this world, and that's exactly what we're fighting for." Her proposition caught me off guard. How can she speak so openly to me? She doesn't even know who I am. I could be a bounty hunter, I thought, turning my gaze towards her. "Thank you for the offer, but I have obligations elsewhere," I replied, politely declining. Irene had brought her horse over and now extended her hand to help me onto the saddle. "If you ever change your mind, we'll be heading to Valentine in a couple of weeks. You probably know where it is," Remy said, her tone open and inviting. I gripped Irene's hand tightly as she lifted me onto the horse, while Lizzie providing assistance from below. The effort was excruciating, my shoulder burned and my ribcage throbbed with pain. "I know the town, and I'll keep it in mind," I groaned through the discomfort. Lexa and Faith had approached from behind Remy. "Hey, cripple, get yourself in shape. Maybe we'll see each other again sometime, and then you'll be ready to join with us," Lexa remarked bluntly. Faith shot Lexa a disapproving glare. "Lexa, that's not how you talk to strangers." "But she is a cripple. You saw it yourself, hon," Lexa retorted, undeterred. "Hey, Remy, why did you spill all the beans about who we are and where we're headed?" Faith inquired, concern lacing her voice. "It could be the death of us." I had a feeling she wasn't entirely truthful about what went down in Limpany. She's not dumb, so she kept us in the dark. But that's a good thing. Keeps us sharp. I wanted her aboard because I can see she knows her way around a gun. and can fend for herself. Not every girl you see is packing 2 revolvers, Remy remarked confidently. Irene and I drew closer to the turnoff leading to Annesburg, a path she hesitated to proceed on. She had led us through the forest to reach the smaller road, minimizing the distance I had to travel on foot. During our journey, she shared stories of her late husband, revealing how his absence had left her shattered and desolate until she found refuge and belonging within the gang. They became her source of comfort and security in the wake of her loss. "This is as close as I can get. I'm still worried the sheriff might catch us," Irene confessed quietly. "Thank you, Irene," I replied, grimacing as I dismounted from the saddle. "Oh, I could have helped," she panicked. "It's okay. You've done enough," I said, gently resting my hand on her shoulder. "I do hope you find your family. Just remember what Remy said, that we will be near Valentine in the future. Maybe we will see each other again," she said, her voice tinged with hope. "Thank you. Stay safe," I replied, a sense of gratitude and assurance in my tone. As I made my way towards Annesburg, the air in the town felt thick and hazy, suffused with the residue of the coal mine. Each breath was a struggle, and the air was difficult to inhale, leaving me coughing and gasping for clarity. The pain I endured made every step a challenge. Sweat dripped down my brow as I fought through the haze, my vision blurred and wavering. Suddenly, a voice called out from the distance,
"Oh, Senora!"
But before I could respond, exhaustion overtook me. I collapsed onto the muddy road. The fate of fatigue pulled me into unconsciousness. The voice was getting closer.
"Eleanor, what has happened to you?
He knelt down beside me.
We need a doctor. Ayuda!"
I recognized that voice immediately. It was Roman. Sometime later, I awoke in a minimalist doctor's office. The room contained only the essentials: a single bed, a night table, a wardrobe, a mirror, and a few small items scattered about. As I slowly regained consciousness, a sense of vulnerability washed over me. With hesitant movements, I glanced down and realized I was only in my undergarments under the blanket. My clothes were hanging to dry on the backyard clothesline, swaying gentle in the breeze. Despite the exposed feeling, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the doctor and nurse's care and attention to my well-being.
"Oh, doctor, she's awake!"
Roman exclaimed.
"Nice to see you among the living. I'm Dr. Smith. How are you feeling?"
Dr. Smith inquired, his tone gentle and reassuring.
"Like crap,"
I replied bluntly.
"Understandable. And that feeling might linger for the next month,"
the doctor remarked sympathetically.
"Your shoulder was dislocated. Your ribs are bruised, and there is a wound on your leg."
He paused, his tone gentle yet matter-of-fact.
"But here's the good news. We managed to relocate your shoulder. It'll be painful as it heals. Regarding the leg wound, it's been cleaned and bandaged. Remember to change it daily. On the bright side, you'll leave a pretty cool scar."
Dr. Smith met my gaze directly before posing the inevitable question.
"How did it happen?"
"Dislocated shoulder explains why it was hurting so much," I muttered through gritted teeth, attempting to pull myself up to sit with my left hand, only to falter. The doctor, seeing my struggle, approached and offered assistance.
"Easy there. I'll give you some morphine to ease the pain,"
he said, his voice reassuring as he prepared to administer the medication. I held my ribs tenderly, wincing at the reminder of the pain. "Thank you. And well, I fell off a horse," I replied, deciding to stick to the fabricated story. The doctor nodded understandingly.
"Falling off a horse can be dangerous. You're lucky it wasn't more serious,"
he remarked with a sympathetic smile.
"At least you're here now, and we can take care of you."
I braced myself as he administered the injection of morphine to my left upper arm, feeling a wave of relief washed over me.
"I recommend you rest until you're fully healed, which should take about 6 weeks. Your husband can take care of you,"
he advised, his words carrying both concern and reassurance. "Resting for 6 weeks? I don't have that time. Wait, he's not my husband," I interjected, feeling the need to clarify the situation. Roman nodded in agreement.
"Oh, Eleanor and I are not married, sir, he confirmed. My apologies, Dr. Smith responded, adjusting his pocket watch before attempting to place it back to his pocket. Unbeknownst to him, the watch slipped from his fingers, silently tumbling to the floor. Thank you for your understanding, he continued, oblivious to the mishap. I must go now. Miss Jones is about to give birth, so I have to go to check if she's alright. You can stay here for an hour, then you should go home and rest. If you need anything, Miss Johnson can help. Thanks, Doc, I said gratefully as he made his way to the door. Get well soon, he offered before stepping out, leaving Roman and me to contemplate the road to recovery ahead. The forgotten pocket watch was laying unnoticed on the floor. Roman's tone carried a hint of suspicion as he questioned me. Falling off a horse, huh? He asked, eyeing me intently. I quickly maneuvered my foot atop the fallen pocket watch, concealing it from Roman's notice. Excuse me. The nurse apologized as she entered the room, carrying my clothes. They're still a bit damp, but they should dry quickly with the warm weather outside, Miss Johnson said with a smile as she placed my clothes at the end of the bed. Thank you, nurse, I expressed my gratitude as she left the room. Ignoring Roman's question about falling off the horse, I pressed on urgently. You need to get me out of here. You need to get me to the Great Plains, I demanded. Whoa, what? Great Plains? Are you insane, Eleanor? Roman asked, clearly confused by my sudden request. Either you take me there, or I'll take your horse and ride there myself, I declared firmly, hastily pulling on my shirt as determination blazed in my eyes. Each movement was a struggle, with my shoulder throbbing with pain. But Eleanor, you're in no condition to be on horseback, or even walking, Roman protested, concern etched on his face. I need to get there. My family thinks I'm dead, and I'm not even sure if any of them made it out alive. Roman, please, you're my only hope, I pleaded, my eyes reflecting the turmoil within me as I held my injured shoulder. Your family? Roman's gaze drifted towards the mine outside, a heavy sigh escaping his lips. I might regret this, but I will take you there. I'll go get my horse ready. Thank you. I owe you, I expressed gratefully. He stopped at the door, his back to me, but I could sense his acknowledgement as he tipped his hat. Don't thank me yet. You're not there. This will be dangerous because of your condition. But you wanted this, he cautioned before striding out of the building. The morphine was starting to kick in, offering some relief from the overwhelming pain. After I had gotten dressed, I attempted to put on my gun belt, but the pain proved too intense to manage. After a few futile attempts, I signed in resignation and settled for donning my hat. As I did, my gaze fell upon the doctor's pocket watch laying next to my foot. I made a mental note to discreetly pocket it, intending to keep it for myself. He can afford a new one. He's a doctor after all, I mumbled to myself as I carefully slid the pocket watch into my pants pocket. After securing the pocket watch, I quickly slipped on my boots, eager to join Roman outside. Stepping outside, I found Roman waiting with his horse, the same one he had when we first met, a stern Breton horse with dark black reddish coat. Everything okay, senora? Roman inquired, his gaze concerned as I limped towards him. The morphine started to kick in, so I feel reborn, I replied, offering him a wry smile from under my eyebrows. Could you help me with this? I handed him my gun belt. Si, of course. He nodded, deftly wrapping the belt around my waist and securing it in place. After he finished, Roman mounted the saddle and extended his arm to me. I struggled to hoist myself up, but with his strength, it was an effortless task for him to pull me onto the saddle. Are you comfortable? He asked, his concern evident in his voice. No, but just right. The faster we get going, the faster we get there, I stated, urgently lacing my words. As we traveled along the road, the sun had already begun its descent in the west, casting long shadows across the landscape. By the time we reached the heartlands, near Emerald Ranch, it was almost midnight.
The full moon illuminated the sky, casting a soft glow over the surroundings. Despite the late hour, the weather remained warm, and the clear sky offered a sense of serenity. The effects of the morphine had worn off some time ago, and the pain had gradually intensified during our journey. Being on horseback only worsened the discomfort, and I knew I couldn't endure much longer without rest. I leaned in closer to Roman, struggling to speak through the pain. "Hey, Roman," I said quietly, my voice nearly drowned out by the rhythmic sound of the horse's hooves. Realizing he hadn't heard me, I tried again, this time raising my voice to ensure he caught my words. "Roman, stop!" He halted his horse and turned to me with concern evident in his expression.
"Eleanor, are you feeling okay?"
he asked, hopping off the saddle and extending his hand to assist me. I held my left arm for support and attempted to lift my right leg off the left side of the horse, but the pain was too intense. "I'm not. It hurts too much," I admitted, feeling the weight of exhaustion and discomfort. Roman observed my struggle and offered a solution.
"I can make my horse lay down, if that makes it easier,"
he suggested. "Oh, that'd help a lot, I think," I replied gratefully, relieved at the prospect of finding some respite from the relentless pain.
"All right,"
Roman responded, stepping in front of his horse.
"Sombra, acuéstate, chico, acuéstate."
He instructed his horse in a soothing tone, gently guiding it to lay down while he held on its reins. Moving to the rear, he placed his hand on the horse's hindquarters.
"Estás bien, muchacho. No tienes nada de que preocuparte,"
he murmured reassuringly. As the horse obediently settled down, I gratefully eased my foot onto the ground and carefully dismounted. With a grimace, I limped over to sit against a nearby tree, the pain becoming increasingly unbearable. I moaned involuntarily, the discomfort evident in my expression.
"Is it getting worse?"
Roman inquired, his concern palpable. "Not really. The pain is just the same as before I got morphine from the doctor," I replied, trying to display the severity of the discomfort.
"I still think it was a mistake to be traveling in that condition,"
Roman remarked, his concern evident in his voice.
"But it is your choice, so I am not trying to change it. I will try to go if I can find some food for us. Maybe rabbits."
Roman retrieved his weapon from his horse and began walking towards the Kamassa River which we had passed on the way here. "What kind of mess have you gotten yourself into now, Eleanor?" I mused silently, my gaze fixed on the moon. "Charlotte." I swallowed hard, trying to suppress the lump in my throat and hold back the tears. "I wonder if you're looking at the moon as well." A gentle breeze danced through the air, tenderly lifting strands of hair from my face in a comforting embrace. "I hope they all made it out alive," I whispered to myself, my voice trembling with emotion. But the floodgates opened, and I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. They streamed down my cheeks, my breath coming in shallow gasps. Roman returned after 20 minutes, holding a rabbit he had caught.
"This is not much, but it is better than nothing,"
he remarked. Quickly I wiped away my tears with my sleeve, hoping to conceal the evidence of my moment of vulnerability from Roman. He handed me something, and I glanced down to see a handful of raspberries nestled in his palm.
"I also picked up some raspberries for you to eat while I prepared the campfire and the rabbit for us,"
he explained. Gratefully I placed my hands under his, allowing the berries to drop into my palms. I stared at them, counting the 12 vibrant red fruits, feeling a surge of gratitude for his thoughtfulness. Roman then carefully placed the rabbit on his horse's saddle before setting about gathering branches from around the tree to build a fire. "Raspberries," I said out loud, my voice barely above a whisper.
"¿Qué? I mean what?"
Roman asked, turning to me with curiosity. "Raspberries were always what Charlotte smelled like," I explained, my gaze fixed on the berries in my hand.
"I don't remember you ever mentioning Charlotte. Who is she? Your sister?"
he inquired, his brow furrowing in confusion as he continued arranging the branches for the fire. The aroma of raspberries enveloped me, conjuring memories of Charlotte, as her absence which weighed heavily on my heart. tears surged anew, cascading down my cheeks as my sobs echoed into the night.
Hey, whoa, Eleanor!
Roman rushed to me, his concern palpable as he knelt down beside me.
What's the matter?
I've ruined everything. A lot of people died because of me, Roman. A lot of innocent people, I confessed between sobs, unable to contain the weight of my guilt.
You seem to have a lot to explain, but nobody wants to tell a story with an empty stomach. I'll make the fire and cook the rabbit. You eat the raspberries and take a breath in the meantime.
He reassured me, his voice gentle yet firm. With a nod, he returned to gathering branches, and soon had a fire crackling to life with the help of some matches. As the flames danced, I picked up a raspberry, taking a solace in its sweetness as I tried to steady my breathing and calm my racing thoughts. After the flames subsided, he deftly began skinning the rabbit. It was evident that he had done this countless times before. The rabbit's belt pleated away effortlessly under his skilled hands, his knife moving with practiced precision. As I observed his expertise, my tears ceased their flow. Slowly, I reached for the raspberries, savoring each one with newfound composure. After some time had passed, he finished cooking.
Here is your plate,
Roman offered, presenting me with a serving that included a generous portion of rabbit. Thank you, I replied, beginning to eat. He allowed me enjoy the meal briefly before broaching a weighty topic.
So, how did your actions lead to the deaths of so many innocent people?
I recounted the tragic tale of Limpany, detailing Clint's descent into madness and the resulting loss of life. I explained our initial aspirations for wealth and freedom, only to be comforted by the harsh reality of our choices. Everything's laid bare now, I concluded. If you're still in the bounty hunter business, you can take me to the nearest sheriff's office. I don't have much left to lose.
May I know your age?
He asked, his tone gentle. I'm 23, I replied, meeting his gaze.
Only 23? You've got a lifetime ahead of you, and tapestry waiting to be woven with adventures and discoveries,
he mused, his tone contemplative.
Why would I want to cut it short?
His words carried a gentle reassurance, like a breeze whispering through the leaves.
I know you are not cut from the same cloth as the thugs I used to track down,
he continued, sincerity coloring his voice.
You don't deserve the fate they met. And as for me, I've hung up my bounty hunter hat. It's time for a different chapter, one where settling down is more than just a dream.
I followed his gaze upward, tracing the patterns of the stars scattered across the night sky. All I ever wanted was a means to an end, a way to escape the harsh reality of life in the wilds. And for my gang, well, they had dreams too, I confessed, the weight of our shared struggle hanging heavy in the air. Roman turned his gaze towards me, his eyes reflecting the flickering flames of the campfire.
You know, Eleanor,
he began, his voice gruff yet earnest.
I reckon your future shines bright. You're a smart one. And your gang? They sound just as sharp.
Curious, he probed further.
What led to your injury?
I gazed at him and muttered. Clint hurled a stick of dynamite towards the general store after our brief exchange. I don't fully grasp why, but I instinctively sprinted toward it, thinking I could redirect its path. The explosion propelled me through the adjacent building's wall. Amidst the chaos, I heard my mother's voice and the others. I hesitated, gathering myself before pressing on. I can't be sure if they escaped, Roman. Everything spiraled out of control in an instant, and I can't shake the feeling that it's all my doing. Tears welled in my eyes. Roman stirred the fire, his expression inscrutable.
That clarifies things. The whole story was a stretch.
He peered at me from beneath his hat.
But let me tell you this. It's the game we are forced to play out here, finding ways to make ends meet. I can't fault you for that. Sometimes we place trust in the wrong individuals and suffer the consequences. His actions aren't on you.
My voice quivered slightly. I thought having him in the gang would benefit us. But now, So many lives have been lost, and for what? Because of my selfish desire for a better life. Roman's gaze sharpened.
We all carry the weight of blood on our hands, Eleanor. You sought a better future for your gang, and I am not here to pass judgment. What's important now is to persevere, to keep moving forward, and find a path to survival. I've done it, and so can you.
I suppose you're right. We're all prone to mistakes, I murmured, my gaze captured by the mesmerizing dance of the flames. I mentioned Charlotte earlier. She's someone very dear to me, someone I hold close, I confessed softly. Roman's eyes left the fire's embrace to meet mine.
Then you have your reason to keep going. No doubt. She's longing for your return as much as you are for hers.
His words, like a whispered promise. I nodded in agreement, then fell silent for a moment before posing a question to him. Do you reckon you still have a position in the mine once you return?
Ha! I doubt it, but that's all right. The boss there is a fool. As we say in Mexico, pendejo, he chuckled.
Where's Benito, your friend? I asked, eager for any distraction from the sorrow waited on me for days.
Benito returned to Mexico. America didn't feel like home to him, so he went back to his family.
I don't blame him. Who wouldn't want to be with their family? He replied. After he quickly added,
Oh, I didn't mean to.
It's fine, I reassured him. One of the things I appreciated about Roman was his ability to sense my emotions without prying. He gave me space when I needed it most, understanding my need for solace during tough times. I was grateful to have met him in Annesburg. Fucking Clint. He was up. I trailed off, searching for the right words, but Roman finished my sentence for me.
Pendejo?
He chuckled. Pendejo, I affirmed with a smile.
Ha ha, Roman laughed. We should get some rest now. You won't heal unless you get some sleep. Good night, Eleanor.
Good night to you too, Roman. As the first rays of sunlight kissed my eyelids, the air felt crisp and carried the sense of yarrow. Its spicy fragrance enveloped me as a gentle breeze rustled through the grass. The sky, adorned with shades of pink and orange, announced the dawn of a new day. I lay still for a while, relishing the tranquility, as in that moment it seemed like it was just nature and me in the entire world. But simultaneously the pain stirred awake. My shoulder, ribs, and legs still throbbed. What had I been thinking? That I could escape all this agony by simply running toward that little hill and vanishing into the unknown? Of course not. Yet the thought that filled my resolve was knowing that in about 2 days I would be reunited with my family in Charlotte. And let's not forget about Elizabeth. The silence shattered as Roma let out a loud snore. Hey, we should get going, I nudged him. Startled, he jolt awake.
Ah!
He exclaimed, sitting up.
Eleanor, I slept too well. I didn't even wake up to the first rays of sunlight.
I donned my hat and struggled to rise. Glad one of us got a good night's sleep, I crumbled. Roman rose from his blanket and neatly rolled it up.
I'm sorry. Is the pain still as bad as yesterday?
He asked, approaching Sombra. It is, but we have to get going, I insisted. As we rode through the winding trails of Emerald Ranch, I caught sight of farm animals there, cows, chickens, and sheep. The sight of sheep reminded me of Charlotte and how she always delighted in them. It also brought back memories of the time I was in Armadillo, about to search for Lucinda, but instead I found Charlotte. She's been one of the best parts of my life. If I ever see her again, I must tell her how I feel. Being away for so long has made me realize the fragility of human life and how we never know when our days are numbered. We rode for about 5 hours in total, taking little breaks along the way. We passed by Limpany, but I purposely avoided looking in that direction. And Roman didn't mention anything about it, for which I was grateful. Riding through the Dakota River, we followed the same route to Rick's station that I had traversed just days earlier with the gang.
Are you holding up all right, Eleanor?
Roman's voice filled with concern. cut through the haze of pain clouding my mind. I mustered a weak smile, though every fiber of my being screamed in protest.
I'll manage, Roman. Just keep riding. We're too close to give up now.
But as the miles stretched on, I realized I was losing the battle against the relentless pain. Every breath was a struggle, and every movement was a torment. I couldn't endure this much longer, and Roman knew it too.
We need to stop, Eleanor.
Roman's voice was firm, his gaze unwavering.
You can't go on like this. I can hear you're in a lot of pain. You're already leaning on me.
I was too exhausted to argue with him, so I simply hummed in agreement. I dismounted from the horse as before, and Roman laid a blanket on the ground for me. As soon as I laid down, exhaustion overwhelmed me, and I slipped into a deep sleep. My body needed the rest more than I had realized. We had finally made it to Upper Montana River, just next to Blackwater. My family, Charlotte, and Elizabeth were now within arm's reach. The next morning greeted us with the soft glow of dawn, yet the relentless pain still ravaged my body. Roman's concern was palpable as he helped me sit up.
How are you feeling this morning?
He asked. I took a deep breath.
Better than last night, but still not great.
After our brief exchange of words, we got on Sombra and continued our way to the camp. The journey was torturous. Each step Sombra took was giving me agony. Hours passed, and the sun was setting as we arrived at the camp. Cynthia, Charlotte, and Elizabeth's attention was immediately drawn to the unfamiliar figure riding the horse. Roman's presence seemed to cast a shadow over the camp, his calm demeanor sparking curiosity and caution in the equal measure.
"Who's that?"
Charlotte whispered, her voice barely audible over the crackle of the campfire. Cynthia frowned, her gaze lingering on Roman as she tried to look at his face.
"I'm not sure,"
she admitted, her mind racing with questions. Fuji, our loyal canine companion, and Cripps stood at the edge of the campfire's glow, their figures outlined in the flickering light. Suddenly, Fuji's growls slid through the night, a warning to the newcomer who had emerged from the darkness.
"Do any of you go by the name Charlotte?"
Roman finally opened his mouth. Elizabeth's eyes narrowed as she studied Roman, a flicker of distrust flashing across her features.
"Who's asking?"
she muttered, her hand instinctively reaching for the pistol at her side. "I am." Charlotte tried to sound brave, but anyone with ears could tell there was fear in her voice. Elizabeth looked at Charlotte in astonishment. Why did she reveal herself to a stranger? But before Elizabeth could say anything, Roman sighed in relief and then said,
"I believe this person is someone you have been missing."
In my foggy mind, the conversation is all distant and indistinct, like a dream slipping through my fingers. Roman rode his horse sideways in front of them, ensuring they could see me at the back.
"Eleanor!"
All three shouted in unison.